Welcome back everyone to Racing Reviews. Welcome back to another episode of our Formula 1 2020 team season review thingy. Still haven't come up with a name with just yet. But today, it's the turn of our next team on the list, Alfa Romeo. A strange year for the team in which they took quite a big step back compared to 2019. As always, if you are new, feel free to subscribe. For all Alfa Romeo fans out there, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll start off talking about the team, put them in a tier list, talk about the drivers individually a little bit later on, and then put them in our giant tier list of all the drivers through our 2020 season. So if you are new, feel free to subscribe. But first up, let's talk about Alfa Romeo, because overall this year, it was a disappointment. 2019, 4th and 5th to almost round the season off in that Brazilian Grand Prix. In 2019, Kimi Raikkonen had a really strong first year back at the team where he made his debut all the way back in 2001. And Antonio Giovinazzi had an okay first year in Formula 1, certainly getting used to the ropes, certainly learning his way around the sport, but improvements were being made over the course of the season. Then when you move over to last season, 2020, things aren't quite as rosy. And you can't blame it on the drivers. Raikkonen, as consistent as ever. Antonio, making big step forwards on both a Saturday and a Sunday. And I think actually his performances this year really went under the radar. But for a team that scored a total of 57 points in the Constructors' standings in 2019, in 2020 scored 8 points. A 49-point drop over the course of one winter. And whilst it looks pretty straightforward on paper that the team have done something wrong, it's clearly aerodynamically on the chassis something can't be right. I think we all know. And as we'll see as we continue to go through each team, the engine in this particular car this year was pretty awful. Alfa Romeo are the first Ferrari power team I've had the privilege to cover in our season review so far. And a lot of the team's issues can be nailed right down to that, with Haas F1 finding themselves in a very similar position, not only at the end of 2019, but also through into 2020. And both teams, for the majority of this year, found themselves in that back group of Haas, Alfa Romeo and Williams, none of which want to be anywhere near the back of the field. However, of the three, I think Alfa Romeo were the most impressive. I believe Alfa Romeo did have the best chassis, and I do think many of the performances from the drivers straight away look at Imola. The only team out of those backmarker teams to get both drivers in the points at one single event, a 9th for Kimi Raikkonen, a 10th for Antonio Giovinazzi. They also got both drivers through to Q3 at the Turkish Grand Prix. Yes, that Grand Prix was a little bit all over the place, but you've got to put yourself in the right position at the right time. And I think Alfa Romeo, on an operational level, was the best out of those back three teams. So, overall, an okay year for the team. But there's no denying that Ferrari engine holding them back so much in a straight line, causing so many issues for the team, really hurt their season. 8 points, 8th in the Constructors' standings. A big disappointment for a team that only a couple of years ago had massive aspirations to fight their way back out of that back group into the midfield, something they were able to do in 2019. So far on our tier list, Mercedes are in the legendary category, McLaren and AlphaTauri have gone in great, and Racing Point technically are our worst team, only in the good category. But things are going to change today. Alfa Romeo I have put in the bad category for the 2020 season. All of that progress from the year before, gone. In the bin. I don't think it's quite as bad as putting them in the bin in terms of our tier list, because there were moments of brilliance. Both drivers were able to shine on occasion, but certainly the team nowhere near that fight in the midfield, nowhere near the fight for podiums, something which in the final race of 2018 with Charles Leclerc, they were very, very close to doing. Fingers crossed for the team. Ferrari can sort their act out and they can move a little bit further up for next season. I feel bad putting them in the bad category, but certainly as a team, they will want more. And I think a team with the history of Alfa Romeo, a history of Sauber, with that Ferrari partnership, they will know they can do better. Our drivers are head-to-head, one of the closest on the Formula 1 2020 grid, 8-9 to Antonio Giovinazzi in the qualifying battle, but their average qualifying position actually favoured Kimi, 16.2 for Raikkonen, 16.8 for Antonio Giovinazzi, so both of them on average just going out in Q1. On a Sunday, things really start to shift a little bit into Kimi's favour, 12-5 in the Grand Prix race head-to-head, but points, it's 4 apiece, qualifying their best result, 8th for Kimi Raikkonen and 10th for Antonio Giovinazzi, both of them coming in that Q3 appearance at the Turkish Grand Prix, and a best race finish, both of them picking up P9s, Raikkonen only with 2 points finishes over the course of this year, Giovinazzi with 3, with 1 9th place and 2 10th place finishes. I want to talk about Giovinazzi first, and we'll leave Kimi until the end of the video, because I think Antonio had a massive year in 2020. Very easily, he could have been let go at the end of this season. Ferrari have so many incredible talents in Formula 2. Mick Schumacher, of course, will join the grid next year for Haas F1. But that does mean we're missing out on other talents, which I do believe should have a chance on the F1 grid. Callum Ilott, you all know I think he is an awesome little driver. He should be on the grid this season. And Robert Schwartzman, again, I do believe there is massive potential in that young man. A little bit too early for Schwartzman, but Ilott definitely should have been on the radar for a Formula 1 team. Gio had to prove himself this year. He knew there was going to be so much pressure for Ferrari to keep him at Alfa Romeo, and he was going to have to perform. Alfa Romeo, likewise, knew they had a fantastic driver in Kimi, who, albeit isn't the world champion Kimi Raikkonen he once was in the mid-2000s, but certainly can throw some punches when he needs to in a Formula 1 car. Put that all together, throw it in a pot, and very easily, Giovinazzi could have really struggled this year, crumbled under the pressure. But I think he was really, really good this season. Got really, really unlucky with some of the strategies that came his way. But for a team like Alfa Romeo, like Haas, like Williams, we even saw it with AlphaTauri, sometimes you've got to go wild on the strategy. You've got to split those strategies. So far, the cars are going to barely even see each other on the circuit. That's exactly what Alfa did this year. And on several occasions, 5 to be exact, the team scored points. Something Williams were not able to do, and Haas was able to do on 2 occasions over the course of the season. The biggest issue for Giovinazzi the year prior was qualifying. Massively stepped up in qualifying this year, right there with Kimi Raikkonen, beating him in the head-to-head, only just behind in the average standings. I was really impressed with Gio this year. He really stood out to me in that back group. It shows right at the front of that driver's standings within that back fight. Raikkonen only 1 place in front of him, in front of George Russell, Grosjean, Magnussen, Latifi, Aitken and Fittipaldi. However, everything I asked him to do at the end of 2019, he did this year. Way more consistent, definitely more in the fight this year, more of a presence, not only in that back group, but also against his teammate. I thought he did a really good job this year. Massive respect for Antonio Giovinazzi. Kimi Raikkonen, doing Kimi Raikkonen things. 16th overall in the driver's standings, only scoring points on 2 occasions over the course of this year. Will he be disappointed? I don't know. It's Kimi. No one ever knows what that man is thinking. But what we do know is that he enjoyed this year. He enjoyed it so much, he decided to stay for another season in 2021. Will he stay for 2022? Wouldn't surprise me. He's certainly got that consistency we expect of him. This year, picking up the Moment of the Season award from the FIA, that incredible opening lap at the Portuguese Grand Prix, proves to me he's still got it. And for me, the biggest part of Raikkonen's season this year, pretty much the constant of his season this year, was fighting with the Ferraris. Fighting with Sebastian Vettel, on occasion fighting with Charles Leclerc, but he had no right to do that. And there he was, scrapping away like no one's business. And that is why Alfa Romeo wants him. That's why they keep him, and that's why he wants to stay in Formula 1. He wants to be able to prove he can fight with the best. He can get his elbows out when he needs to. So, in Kimi Raikkonen fashion, though his review is short and sweet, 2020, I think was a pretty good job for old Kimi. So before we go, let's take a look at our tier list. So far, we've been spicy, and last episode, when we did Mercedes, there was a lot of debate about putting George Russell and his time at Merck in the legendary. A lot of debate about Bottas, who is currently our joint lowest ranking with Danny Kvyat within the average section. Both McLaren drivers, joined with Lance Stroll, are in the good section. Pierre Gasly, great, and Sergio Perez in legendary. For the Alfa Romeo boys, I have gone with this. A good season, I think, for both drivers. Giovinazzi continuing to improve, deserving to keep his seat, but he's going to have a mega year in 2021 to fend off Eilert and to fend off Schwartzman. Kimi, just doing Kimi things, brought so many smiles to so many fans this year. For that opening lap in Portimao, on its own, deserves to be in the good category. Yes, this is Kimi Raikkonen, the world champion, and in that perspective, it's an average year. 16th, 2 points finishes, but the performance of the driving, the performances Kimi put on display this year were pretty good. It can't be great for either of them, it can't be legendary, but a solid year for both Alfa Romeo drivers. I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Tomorrow, it's the turn of Renault, the Honey Badger, King Shui, and Esteban Ocon. Looking forward to it. I hope I can see you there tomorrow. If you are new, feel free to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all. Lots of hopes today, and I hope to see you all in the next one.